Imagine descending 25 meters beneath the crystal-clear waters off the coast of Japan, your diving lights cutting through the blue darkness, when suddenly massive stone structures emerge from the depths. Terraces that seem carved by human hands. Steps that appear to lead nowhere and everywhere at once. Right angles that nature rarely creates. You've just discovered what might be the most controversial underwater archaeological site on Earth, the Yonaguni Monument. For over 3 decades, this submerged stone formation has divided the scientific community, sparked heated debates among archaeologists, and captured the imagination of explorers worldwide. Are these the remnants of a lost civilization, swallowed by rising seas over 12,000 years ago? Or are they simply the work of nature, sculpted by millions of years of geological processes and tectonic activity? Today, we're diving deep into this mystery, exploring the evidence from both sides, and uncovering the truth about Japan's underwater pyramids. Welcome to Ancient Underwater Mysteries. I'm your host, and today we're traveling to the waters surrounding Yonaguni Island, the westernmost inhabited island of Japan, located in the East China Sea. This small island, with a population of just over 1,700 people, sits approximately 125 kilometers east of Taiwan, and has become ground zero for one of the most intriguing underwater discoveries of the modern era. The story begins in 1986 when Kihachiro Aratake, a local diving instructor and tourism operator, was exploring the waters around Yonaguni in search of new diving spots to show tourists hammerhead sharks. What he found instead would change his life and ignite a controversy that continues to this day. As Aratake descended to about 25 meters below the surface, he encountered massive stone formations unlike anything he had seen before. These weren't random rocks scattered across the ocean floor. What lay before him appeared to be a complex of terraced structures, featuring flat surfaces, sharp edges, and what seemed to be artificially carved steps and platforms. The formations stretched over 150 meters in length, 40 meters in width, and rose 27 meters from the seafloor, making them larger than many ancient monuments found on land. Word of Aratake's discovery quickly spread through the diving community, and eventually reached the attention of marine geologist Professor Masaoki Kimura from the University of the Ryukyus in Okinawa. What happened next would spark one of the most passionate scientific debates of our time. Professor Masaoki Kimura first dove to the Yonaguni site in 1992, 6 years after its initial discovery. What he saw convinced him that these formations were not merely the product of natural geological processes. Kimura, a respected marine geologist with decades of experience studying underwater formations throughout the Pacific, became the monument's most vocal advocate for human origin. According to Kimura's extensive surveys and measurements, the Yonaguni Monument displays several features that are highly unusual in natural rock formations. The structure appears to have multiple levels connected by what look like staircases. There are flat terraced areas that seem too precise and extensive to be natural. Most striking are the numerous right angles and straight edges that cut through the formation at mathematically precise intervals. Kimura identified what he interpreted as specific architectural features: a main structure that resembles a stepped pyramid, smaller subsidiary structures that could be buildings or monuments, what appears to be a roadway, and even formations that look like carved statues or figures. He documented over 15 different structures in the area, suggesting this wasn't just a single monument but an entire underwater complex. The professor's team used sophisticated underwater surveying equipment to create detailed three-dimensional maps of the site. These surveys revealed the monument's impressive scale and the geometric precision of many of its features. The main structure rises in a series of terraced steps, each level carefully measured and documented. The largest terrace measures approximately 30 by 35 meters, with a height difference of about 10 meters between levels. Perhaps most intriguingly, Kimura discovered what appeared to be tool marks on some of the stone surfaces. Under close examination, he found linear scratches and gouges that he argued were too regular and purposeful to be caused by natural erosion or marine life. These marks, he suggested, were evidence of ancient stoneworking techniques. Kimura's research also extended beyond the main monument. He identified similar formations at several other locations around Yonaguni Island and neighboring islands, suggesting that what we see today might be part of a much larger complex that once existed above sea level. This possibility raises profound questions about the history of human civilization in the region and the timeline of sea level changes in the area. The professor's work attracted international attention, drawing archaeologists, geologists, and documentary filmmakers from around the world to the remote island. Television crews from major networks descended on Yonaguni, and the monument began appearing in documentaries about lost civilizations and ancient mysteries. The small island's economy, previously dependent on fishing and modest tourism, was transformed by the influx of divers and researchers eager to see the underwater pyramids for themselves. Understanding the Yonaguni Monument requires examining the geological context of the region. Yonaguni Island sits in one of the most seismically active areas on Earth, where multiple tectonic plates converge and interact. The Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and the Pacific Plate all meet in this region, creating a complex geological environment characterized by frequent earthquakes, volcanic activity, and dramatic changes in sea level over geological time. The bedrock underlying Yonaguni Island consists primarily of alternating layers of sandstone and mudstone, deposited over millions of years during different periods of the Miocene epoch, roughly 15 to 20 million years ago. These sedimentary layers have distinct properties that affect how they respond to weathering, erosion, and tectonic stress. Sandstone layers are generally harder and more resistant to erosion, while mudstone layers are softer and erode more easily. This alternating structure of hard and soft rock layers is crucial to understanding how natural processes might have shaped the Yonaguni formations. When subjected to weathering and erosion over long periods, these layered rocks can develop step-like formations as the softer layers erode away, leaving behind the harder layers as natural terraces. This process, known as differential erosion, is well documented in geological literature and can create remarkably regular, stair-step patterns in sedimentary rock formations. The region's intense seismic activity provides another mechanism for creating unusual rock formations. Earthquakes can fracture rock along natural fault lines, creating straight edges and right angles that might otherwise seem artificial. The Yonaguni area experiences regular earthquakes, including several major events that have occurred within recorded history. These seismic events can cause massive blocks of rock to shift, slide, or collapse, potentially creating the terraced appearance observed at the monument. Tectonic activity in the region has also caused significant changes in sea level relative to the land. During the last ice age, which ended approximately 12,000 years ago, sea levels worldwide were about 120 meters lower than they are today. This means that the Yonaguni Monument, which today sits 25 meters below the surface, would have been nearly 100 meters above sea level during the Ice Age. As the ice caps melted and sea levels rose, any structures or formations that existed on the then dry land would have been submerged. The underwater environment around Yonaguni also features strong currents that flow between the East China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. These currents, combined with typhoons and storms that regularly affect the region, create powerful forces that can erode and shape underwater rock formations. Over thousands of years, these forces could potentially carve detailed features into the bedrock, creating patterns that might appear artificial to human observers. Marine geologists have identified several natural processes that could contribute to the formation of the structures observed at Yonaguni. Wave action, particularly during storms, can create remarkably straight cuts in coastal rock formations. Chemical weathering, caused by the interaction between seawater and rock minerals, can selectively dissolve certain layers while leaving others intact. Biological processes, including the action of boring organisms and coral growth, can also modify rock surfaces in ways that create unusual patterns and textures. While Professor Kimura's geological background gave him expertise in understanding rock formations, The question of whether the Yonaguni Monument represents human construction requires input from archaeologists who specialize in ancient human cultures and building techniques. The archaeological community's response to the Yonaguni discovery has been decidedly more skeptical than Kimura's enthusiastic endorsement of artificial origin. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University who gained fame for his controversial redating of the Great Sphinx of Giza, visited the Yonaguni site in the 1990s to examine the formations firsthand. Schoch, who has argued for much older dates for some ancient monuments, might have been expected to support the artificial origin hypothesis. Instead, after extensive underwater investigation, he concluded that the Yonaguni formations are primarily natural, created by geological processes rather than human construction. Schoch's analysis focused on several key factors that archaeologists typically use to distinguish between natural and artificial stone structures. First, he examined the surfaces of the formations for evidence of tool marks, quarrying techniques, or construction methods that would indicate human workmanship. While Kimura pointed to linear scratches and gouges as evidence of tool marks, Schoch argued that these features were consistent with natural fracturing and erosion processes. Second, Schoch looked for evidence of mortar, cement, or other binding materials that ancient builders typically used to construct large stone monuments. The Yonaguni formations show no evidence of any artificial binding materials. All the structures appear to be carved from or consist of single pieces of bedrock, which would be extremely unusual for human construction of this scale. Third, archaeologists typically find associated artifacts when they discover ancient construction sites. These might include tools, pottery, decorative objects, or other evidence of human habitation and activity. Despite extensive investigation of the Yonaguni site and the surrounding area, no clear archaeological artifacts have been found that would support the presence of an ancient civilization capable of constructing such massive monuments. The absence of cultural context also puzzles archaeologists. If the Yonaguni Monument represents the work of an advanced ancient civilization, we would expect to find evidence of that civilization in the archaeological record of the region. Japan has a well-documented archaeological history stretching back over 30,000 years, and while ancient Japanese cultures were sophisticated in many ways, there is no evidence in the known archaeological record of any culture in the region with the technological capability to construct monuments on the scale of Yonaguni. Dr. John Anthony West, another researcher who has challenged conventional archaeological timelines, also examined the Yonaguni formations. While West has argued for much older dates for some Egyptian monuments, he too concluded that the Yonaguni structures are most likely natural formations, though he acknowledged that some human modification of natural structures might have occurred. The archaeological community has also pointed out that the dating proposed for the Yonaguni Monument creates significant problems for our understanding of human cultural development. If these structures were built by humans before being submerged by rising sea levels 12,000 years ago, they would predate all known examples of monumental stone architecture by several millennia. The oldest known stone monuments, such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, date to around 11,000 years ago, and are far smaller and simpler than what is claimed for Yonaguni. To better understand the Yonaguni controversy, it's helpful to examine similar underwater discoveries and how they have been interpreted by the scientific community. Around the world, rising sea levels have submerged numerous archaeological sites, providing clear examples of how genuine human constructions appear when found underwater and how they differ from natural formations. In the Mediterranean Sea, archaeologists have discovered and extensively studied numerous submerged cities and harbors. The ancient port city of Caesarea Maritima, built by Herod the Great around 25 BCE, now lies partially underwater due to tectonic subsidence and sea level rise. Archaeological investigations of this site have revealed clear evidence of human construction: worked stone blocks fitted together with mortar, harbor installations with distinct architectural features, and abundant artifacts including pottery, coins, and tools. The key difference between sites like Caesarea and the Yonaguni Monument is the presence of unambiguous evidence of human workmanship and cultural activity. Genuine underwater archaeological sites contain artifacts, show clear construction techniques, and fit within the known historical and cultural context of their regions. They also typically show evidence of multiple phases of construction, repair, and modification that characterize human settlements. In Japan itself, there are several examples of genuine underwater archaeological sites that provide a stark contrast to Yonaguni. Lake Biwa, Japan's largest freshwater lake, contains submerged village sites dating back several thousand years. These sites contain clear evidence of human habitation, including pottery, stone tools, wooden structures, and hearths. The difference in archaeological evidence between these confirmed sites and Yonaguni is dramatic. Natural rock formations that superficially resemble human construction are actually quite common around the world. The Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland consists of thousands of interlocking basalt columns that form remarkably regular geometric patterns, yet are entirely natural, created by ancient volcanic activity. The Devil's Tower in Wyoming appears so artificial that it has inspired numerous alternative theories about its origin, yet geologists have thoroughly documented its natural formation through volcanic processes. Closer to Yonaguni, the coasts of Japan and surrounding islands feature numerous examples of natural rock formations with geometric appearances. Wave-cut platforms, sea caves, and naturally fractured cliff faces create patterns that can appear startlingly artificial to casual observers. The key is learning to distinguish between the superficial appearance of regularity and the genuine evidence of human workmanship. The phenomenon of seeing artificial patterns in natural formations is well documented in psychology as a form of pareidolia, the tendency of the human brain to perceive meaningful patterns or familiar shapes in random or ambiguous stimuli. This same psychological process that makes us see faces in clouds or religious figures in rock formations can cause us to interpret natural geological features as artificial constructions. However, supporters of the artificial origin theory point to specific features at Yonaguni that they argue are unlikely to be natural. These include what appear to be perfectly straight edges cutting across the formation at precise right angles, flat surfaces that seem too extensive and level to be natural, and formations that resemble specific architectural elements like stairs, platforms, and walls. Marine geologist Professor Kimura has documented what he interprets as tool marks on some surfaces, arguing that the linear scratches and parallel grooves are too regular and purposeful to be caused by natural processes. He has also identified what he believes are quarry marks, suggesting that blocks of stone were deliberately cut and removed from the formation. The debate is further complicated by the possibility that the formations represent a combination of natural geological processes and human modification. Some researchers suggest that while the basic structure of the monument might be natural, ancient peoples might have modified, carved, or enhanced natural rock formations for religious or ceremonial purposes. This interpretation would explain both the apparently artificial features and the lack of clear construction evidence. Understanding when the Yonaguni formations might have been created or modified requires careful analysis of sea level changes in the region over the past 20,000 years. This dating question is crucial to the debate because it determines whether humans could have had access to the site during periods when advanced civilizations existed in the region. The last glacial maximum occurred approximately 20,000 years ago, when massive ice sheets covered much of North America and northern Europe. During this period, so much water was locked up in ice that global sea levels were about 120 meters lower than they are today. The coastlines of all continents extended far beyond their current boundaries, and many areas that are now underwater were dry land. For the Yonaguni region, this means that the monument site, which today sits 25 meters below sea level, would have been approximately 95 meters above sea level during the last glacial maximum. The area would have been part of a land bridge connecting Japan to Taiwan and mainland Asia, allowing easy movement of people and animals between what are now separate islands. As the ice sheets began to melt around 15,000 years ago, sea levels rose rapidly in geological terms, though the process took several thousand years to complete. The rise was not uniform or steady. There were periods of rapid rise interspersed with periods of stability or even temporary retreat. The final major pulse of sea level rise occurred between 11,000 and 8,000 years ago, when the remaining ice sheets collapsed and released enormous volumes of water into the oceans. Archaeological evidence from around the world shows that humans were indeed living in coastal areas that were later submerged by this post-glacial sea level rise. Many underwater archaeological sites in the Mediterranean, the North Sea, and other regions date to this transitional period and provide clear evidence of human adaptation to changing sea levels. However, the critical question for Yonaguni is not just whether the site was above water when humans might have modified it, but whether there were humans in the region with the technological and organizational capacity to create such monuments. The archaeological record of Japan during the relevant period provides important constraints on this question. During the last glacial maximum and the subsequent period of sea level rise, Japan was inhabited by people of the Jomon culture, one of the world's earliest pottery-making cultures. The Jomon people were hunter-gatherers who lived in small communities and are known for their sophisticated pottery, complex shell middens, and elaborate burial practices. However, there is no evidence in the Jomon archaeological record for monumental stone architecture of any kind. The Jomon people did create impressive earthwork monuments, including large circular earthen embankments and complex burial mounds. They also worked stone to create tools and some decorative objects. However, their stoneworking technology was primarily focused on creating smaller objects like axes, knives, and ornaments. There is no evidence that Jomon communities had the technology, organization, or cultural motivation to create massive stone monuments. Professor Kimura has argued that the Yonaguni Monument might date to an even earlier period, potentially 12,000 years ago or more, which would place its construction before or during the earliest Jomon period. This dating would make the monument contemporary with Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, currently considered the world's oldest known monumental architecture. However, this early dating creates additional problems for the artificial origin hypothesis. The human population of Japan 12,000 years ago was extremely small and consisted of mobile hunter-gatherer groups who had only recently arrived in the islands. The idea that such groups could have organized the massive labor force necessary to create monuments on the scale of Yonaguni seems highly implausible given what we know about human social organization during this period. Supporters of the artificial origin theory have suggested that the monument might be evidence of a previously unknown advanced civilization that existed in the region before being destroyed or displaced by rising sea levels. This interpretation would require a fundamental revision of our understanding of human cultural development in East Asia and would demand much more extensive archaeological evidence than currently exists. The Yonaguni controversy highlights important questions about scientific methodology and how extraordinary claims should be evaluated within the academic community. The scientific method relies on peer review, replication of results, and the gradual accumulation of evidence to build consensus around new discoveries. The Yonaguni case demonstrates both the strengths and limitations of this process when applied to controversial archaeological claims. Professor Kimura's research on the Yonaguni Monument has been extensive and detailed. Over more than 2 decades, he has conducted hundreds of dives to the site, created detailed maps and measurements, and documented thousands of photographs of the formations. His work represents a significant investment of time and effort and demonstrates genuine scientific rigor in data collection. However, the broader scientific community has noted several methodological concerns with how the artificial origin hypothesis has been presented and defended. First, much of Kimura's research has been published in popular media, documentaries, and books rather than in peer-reviewed scientific journals. While popular dissemination of research is important, scientific claims gain credibility through the peer review process, where other experts in the field can examine methodology, question conclusions, and suggest alternative interpretations. The few peer-reviewed papers that have been published about Yonaguni have generally supported natural origin hypotheses, When geologists and archaeologists with expertise in underwater formations and ancient architecture have examined the site, they have typically concluded that the formations are most likely natural, though some acknowledge the possibility of minor human modification. This pattern reflects an important principle in scientific reasoning known as the principle of parsimony or Occam's razor, which suggests that when multiple explanations are possible, the simplest explanation that accounts for all the evidence is usually correct. Natural geological processes are well understood and documented causes of rock formation patterns, while the artificial origin hypothesis requires assuming the existence of an otherwise unknown advanced ancient civilization. The scientific community has also noted the importance of considering alternative explanations and avoiding confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new evidence as supporting one's existing beliefs. Critics argue that supporters of the artificial origin hypothesis have focused primarily on features that seem to support human construction while downplaying or ignoring evidence that supports natural formation. For example, the monument's integration with the surrounding bedrock is more consistent with natural formation than human construction. Large-scale human constructions typically show clear boundaries between natural rock and artificial stonework, evidence of quarrying and transport of materials, and architectural features that serve clear functional purposes. The Yonaguni formations lack these characteristics. The controversy has also been influenced by broader cultural and social factors that extend beyond purely scientific considerations. The idea of lost advanced civilizations has powerful popular appeal and appears frequently in documentary films, books, and television programs. This popular interest can create pressure to interpret ambiguous evidence in ways that support more dramatic or sensational conclusions. In Japan, the Yonaguni Monument has become a source of national pride and tourist revenue for the local community. The small island's economy has been significantly boosted by divers and tourists who come to see the underwater pyramids. This economic interest, while understandable, can create incentives to promote the more sensational artificial origin interpretation, regardless of scientific evidence. The role of media coverage in shaping public perception of the controversy cannot be underestimated. Television documentaries and popular books often present the debate as a simple conflict between open-minded researchers who accept new possibilities and closed-minded academics who refuse to consider alternative explanations. This framing obscures the legitimate scientific reasons for skepticism and the high standards of evidence required to support extraordinary claims. Professional archaeologists and geologists who have examined the Yonaguni site are not closed-minded skeptics but scientists who require convincing evidence before accepting claims that would fundamentally change our understanding of human prehistory. The absence of clear archaeological artifacts, the lack of cultural context, and the availability of natural explanations for the observed features all contribute to scientific skepticism about artificial origin claims. In the decades since its discovery, research at the Yonaguni Monument has continued, though at a slower pace than during the initial years of excitement in the 1990s and early 2000s. Recent developments have provided additional data about the site, while generally supporting natural origin explanations for the formations. Advanced underwater surveying technology has allowed researchers to create increasingly detailed three-dimensional maps of the monument and surrounding area. High-resolution sonar mapping and underwater photogrammetry have revealed previously unknown features and provided more precise measurements of existing structures. These technological advances have made it possible to analyze the formations in unprecedented detail and compare them more effectively with both natural geological formations and confirmed archaeological sites. One significant recent development has been the application of underwater drilling and core sampling to better understand the geological structure of the monument. Core samples taken from various parts of the formation have provided insights into the composition and layering of the rock, helping to clarify how natural processes might have shaped the structures over time. These geological investigations have revealed that the monument consists entirely of the same sandstone and mudstone layers that make up the surrounding bedrock. The formations show no evidence of different materials that might indicate construction using transported stones, nor do they show evidence of cement or mortar that would indicate human assembly of separate blocks. Detailed analysis of the rock surfaces has also provided new insights into the formation processes. High-resolution underwater photography has revealed patterns of fracturing and erosion that are consistent with natural weathering processes. The linear features that Professor Kimura interpreted as tool marks have been shown to follow natural fracture planes in the rock, suggesting they resulted from geological processes rather than human tooling. Marine archaeologists have also conducted more systematic searches for artifacts in the area around the monument. These investigations have used metal detectors, underwater excavation techniques, and careful screening of sediments to look for any evidence of human activity at the site. Despite extensive searching, no clear archaeological artifacts have been found that would support the presence of an ancient civilization at the site. However, research has not been limited to investigating artificial origin claims. Scientists have also studied the monument as an example of interesting natural geological processes and marine ecosystem development. The formations provide habitat for various marine species and have become an important site for studying how underwater rock formations affect local marine ecology. Climate researchers have also used the monument as a case study for understanding sea level changes in the region. The precise elevation and dating of the formations provide information about the timing and extent of post-glacial sea level rise in the East China Sea, contributing to broader understanding of global climate change patterns. Some researchers have taken a middle ground approach, suggesting that while the basic structure of the monument is natural, there might have been some human modification or use of the formations in ancient times. This hypothesis suggests that natural rock formations might have been enhanced or modified by ancient peoples for religious, ceremonial, or practical purposes. Evidence for this interpretation includes some features that appear more regular or purposeful than would be expected from purely natural processes. These might include carved steps or platforms that enhanced natural formations, though such modifications would be much more limited than the massive construction projects originally proposed. This moderate interpretation has the advantage of acknowledging both the geological evidence for natural formation and the observations of features that seem unusually regular or purposeful. However, even this limited human modification hypothesis lacks clear supporting evidence in the form of tools, artifacts, or other archaeological materials. Recent research has also expanded to investigate other underwater formations around Yonaguni Island and neighboring areas. Several similar formations have been identified, though none as large or as regularly structured as the main monument. This pattern of multiple similar formations supports natural origin explanations, as geological processes typically create similar structures across a region, while human construction projects are usually unique and culturally specific. The ongoing research has also benefited from comparative studies with similar formations in other parts of the world. Geologists have identified natural rock formations with similar characteristics in various coastal regions, providing additional examples of how natural processes can create seemingly artificial structures. The Yonaguni Monument controversy extends far beyond the specific question of whether these underwater formations are natural or artificial. The debate raises important questions about how we evaluate extraordinary claims, the role of popular media in shaping scientific discourse, and the broader human fascination with lost civilizations and ancient mysteries. From a scientific perspective, the Yonaguni case demonstrates the importance of maintaining high standards of evidence when evaluating claims that would require significant revision of established knowledge. The scientific method's emphasis on peer review, replication, and gradual consensus building serves as a check against premature acceptance of dramatic but poorly supported hypotheses. The case also illustrates how different academic disciplines approach the same evidence from different perspectives. Geologists focus on understanding the rock formations themselves and the natural processes that might have created them. Archaeologists look for evidence of human culture and technology that would support claims of artificial construction. Marine biologists study how the formations affect underwater ecosystems. Each discipline brings its own expertise and standards of evidence to the investigation. The popular appeal of the lost civilization hypothesis reflects deep-seated human interests in mysteries, ancient wisdom, and the possibility that our ancestors were more sophisticated than we realize. These themes appear frequently in popular culture, from adventure novels to documentary films, and tap into fundamental questions about human origins and capabilities. However, the popularity of such theories can also lead to misunderstanding of how scientific knowledge is actually developed and validated. The scientific process is inherently conservative, requiring substantial evidence before accepting claims that contradict established knowledge. This conservatism, while sometimes frustrating to those who advocate for revolutionary discoveries, serves an important function in preventing the acceptance of false or poorly supported theories. The Yonaguni controversy also highlights the economic and cultural factors that can influence interpretation of archaeological discoveries. For the local community on Yonaguni Island, the monument has become an important source of tourism revenue and cultural identity. The dramatic interpretation of the formations as ancient pyramids is more economically valuable than a more mundane explanation involving natural geological processes. This economic interest is not inherently problematic, but it does create incentives that can influence how evidence is interpreted and presented. Similar dynamics occur at archaeological sites around the world, where tourism revenue depends partly on maintaining public interest in dramatic historical interpretations. The case also raises questions about the role of amateur researchers and local experts in scientific discovery. Kihachiro Aratake, the diving instructor who discovered the monument, and Professor Kimura, who became its primary advocate, represent the important role that local knowledge and passionate investigation can play in bringing new discoveries to scientific attention. At the same time, the controversy demonstrates the importance of subjecting such discoveries to rigorous peer review and evaluation by the broader scientific community. The initial excitement and media attention surrounding the monument were not matched by subsequent validation through the normal scientific process. The international attention focused on Yonaguni has also contributed to broader public interest in underwater archaeology and marine exploration. Regardless of whether the formations are natural or artificial, they have inspired many people to learn more about oceanography, geology, and archaeology. This educational impact represents a positive outcome of the controversy, even if the most dramatic claims about the site are not supported by evidence. The debate has also contributed to improved methods for investigating underwater geological and archaeological sites. The techniques developed for mapping and analyzing the Yonaguni formations have been applied to other underwater investigations and have advanced the field of marine archaeology more generally. After more than 3 decades of investigation, research, and debate, the weight of scientific evidence strongly supports a natural origin for the Yonaguni Monument. While the formations are undeniably impressive and display some features that can appear artificial to casual observers, detailed geological and archaeological analysis has found no convincing evidence of human construction. The monument represents an excellent example of how natural geological processes can create remarkably regular and seemingly purposeful rock formations. The alternating layers of sandstone and mudstone, subjected to millions of years of tectonic activity, erosion, and weathering, have created a complex of terraced structures that capture the human imagination while remaining entirely natural in origin. This conclusion does not diminish the importance or fascination of the Yonaguni Monument. As a natural geological formation, it provides valuable insights into the geological history of the region, the processes of rock formation and erosion, and the effects of sea level change on coastal landscapes. It also serves as an important marine habitat and continues to attract diverse and tourists from around the world. The scientific investigation of Yonaguni has also contributed to our understanding of how to distinguish between natural and artificial underwater formations, improving methods for marine archaeology and geological investigation. The detailed documentation and analysis of the site provide a valuable case study for researchers working on similar formations elsewhere in the world. Perhaps most importantly, The Yonaguni controversy demonstrates the self-correcting nature of scientific inquiry. Initial excitement and dramatic claims about the site led to extensive investigation by multiple researchers from different disciplines. This investigation, conducted over many years and involving sophisticated analytical techniques, has gradually built a consensus around natural origin explanations based on empirical evidence rather than speculation. The enduring popular appeal of the lost civilization hypothesis reflects legitimate human curiosity about our past, and the natural human tendency to look for patterns and meaning in ambiguous phenomena. While the Yonaguni Monument may not be the remains of an ancient underwater city, the real history of human occupation and cultural development in the region is no less fascinating. The archaeological record of Japan reveals a rich and complex story of human adaptation to changing environments over tens of thousands of years. The Jomon culture that inhabited the region when the monument area was above water created sophisticated pottery, complex settlements, and elaborate ritual sites that provide genuine insights into ancient human creativity and social organization. The geological history revealed by the Yonaguni formations is equally compelling. The monument tells a story of tectonic forces, climate change, and the dynamic processes that continue to shape our planet. Understanding these natural processes helps us better appreciate both the power of geological forces and the relatively recent arrival of human civilization in the context of Earth's long history. As we continue to explore the world's oceans and discover new underwater formations, the lessons learned from Yonaguni will help us better evaluate and understand these discoveries. The importance of careful scientific methodology, the need for multiple lines of evidence, and the value of interdisciplinary collaboration all emerge clearly from the Yonaguni investigation. The monument also reminds us that the real world, shaped by natural processes operating over vast scales of time and space, can be just as awe-inspiring and mysterious as any human construction. The fact that natural forces can create formations that so convincingly mimic human architecture speaks to the fundamental mathematical and physical principles that govern both natural processes and human design. In the end, the Yonaguni Monument stands as a testament to the power of both natural geological processes and human curiosity. While it may not be the ancient pyramid that some hope to find, it remains a remarkable feature of our planet's underwater landscape and a valuable site for scientific research and public education. The ongoing fascination with the site ensures that it will continue to inspire exploration, investigation, and wonder for generations to come. The story of Yonaguni ultimately teaches us that the most extraordinary discoveries often come not from confirming our most dramatic expectations, but from carefully observing and understanding the natural world around us. In seeking to understand whether these formations were created by ancient human hands or by the patient work of geological processes, we learn something valuable about both human nature and the nature of our planet itself.